Hi, my name is Miranda Shutler. I'm the creator of Roark, which is a platform that aims to explore the relationship between humans and the man-made space around us through the likes of poetry, art, and photography. Roark aims to question how we view and interact with architecture and urban design in our day-to-day lives on various different scales. The main outlet of Roark will be a book, which will be in the format of a visual essay exploring this relationship with multiple different contributions from photographers, artists, and poets. If you would like to find out more or want to be involved, you can head to the Instagram page, which is at Roark Book, which is ROARK Book, for more information. So for this radio show on Montez Press Radio, under the title of Roark, I have invited some poets and artists to record some of their poems or written pieces on this theme during lockdown that they've either recorded or written during this time. Some of these artists' work will also be featuring in Roark Volume 1, which is due to come out at the end of this year, but will likely be postponed to a slightly later date, depending on what happens with the pandemic. Also, between each reading, I'm going to be playing a track from the original motion picture soundtrack from The Fountainhead, which is actually the book which I based the title off. So the main character in that is Howard Roark, and that's where I got the title from the book from. He is an architect in that book. I would highly recommend reading it. Anyone who hasn't, it's my absolute favourite book. But I'm going to be playing those tracks from that between as well. So this first poem is titled Chinese Walls by Bexy Bex, who is a member of the Flow Poets and a lover of words. To best describe Bexy would be to call her a poet by passion, dancer by daydream, and awesome by everything else. A quick summary of her poem. So the piece is titled Chinese Walls, which is a term used to describe an invisible barrier within an organisation that is erected to prevent exchange or communication. Bexy Bex uses this comparison to draw parallels between the internal barriers and emotional walls humans often build within themselves and the indelicate construction of buildings that create boundaries between the building and nature, instead of embracing and working with it. Growing up in Birmingham, a city once highly dependent on the Industrial Revolution, Bexy has seen this city rebrand its Ugliest in England title and change its attitudes to architecture by incorporating new builds with more park areas, bike lanes and walkways. The poem Chinese Walls is about tearing down the invisible lines between architecture and nature and merging the two, allowing them to reconnect.
I built these walls out of distance and pain. I constructed each frame from calmness and confusion, instructed each vein to flow freely and uninterrupted through these timid traffic lights and flashing red flags. I have had backbones made of bricks split fondness from freedom and rip my reflections from rivers, paper scissors, carve every anxiety into new avenues. These backbones made of bricks slit me and self into two as I watched my inner child, smiling, playing peacefully in parks and slides on the other side, lost child. I built these walls out of you, out of fear, out of protection. I cemented contentment with rejection because I never really connected softness with strength. So instead, I dug a trench and filled my foundation with a broken trust, buried deep under dead promises that were soiled with pride. Once I even tried to hoist my shame onto scaffolds in an attempt to climb and conquer my fear of humiliation. Even after all these years, I'm still grounded by your dirt. And my spirit level is balanced. With pebbles between my toes, these hands meet stone as I place a brittle ear against the walls I built from you so I could listen. Listen to how I swapped sympathy for shovels. These lost troubles echo as loudly as the sea does in shells as my hands clench stone and I press a brittle ear against the high walls that were designed to prevent heartbreak. They were supposed to shield me from hurt, supposed to safeguard my emotions, but I failed you, lost child. You're broken. I only fed you with bouquets of cliches. So now the grass is no longer greener on the other side, for I have paved us both in grey. But this industrial revolution stops today. It stops to make way for my internal revolution that will be televised, for I am not afraid to admit where I failed you, lost child, by design. You were never active, you were passive. A passive design that flaunts hair that stemmed from roof gardens, watered with the stares from a lover's eye, and was tended to gently by the breaths of smiles. I am not afraid to admit where I failed you, lost child. I would no longer hide your beauty from the stars. My walkways will only ever wither from your warmth. Streets will be paved in your golden generosity. My apologies. Instead of working with you, I pushed you away. I should have known that that would never work. My apologies, lost child. Once I break down these Chinese walls, know that I will be waiting for you in the wings, ready to nurture your nature with the winter waters they once drowned you in, lost child. Once I break down these Chinese walls, know that I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting in the wings of home.
So this next poem is submitted by NM, who was working in a pub in London. So NM studied philosophy at uni and is planning on to go and study literature. And this poem of his is titled London, 19th of the 2nd, 2020. And it's looking at this experience of the London streets, which are seemingly inviting and encourage exploration, but actually pull in certain familiar directions. So here is the poem now.
At first the light I witnessed antithetical reveries under a dull narrow beam. I came early so as to behave late. Your attention is for stiff perennials between lamplights on a crossed walkway beckoning at and for the salamander on cool stones. Your time is extruded through a passageway to anywhere, an expulsion of air. I can stipulate the condition of non-closure. Manifestoless like benzene rings, how many millions, O God, dread-wrought play of fabric, oppressed cotton ceremony in intractable detail, subject to your approval. Luck comes a day late, invite me with palms facing down, I'm here.
So these next two poems are from Jade Hilton and Ariane Cipriano, and I wanted to introduce them together because these two ladies are actually friends. So they met at one of Draws, which is an art studio in Brighton. They met at a Draws model enrichment class for life models, and they kind of very quickly realised they both share a love of poetry and the written word, and their friendship kind of blossomed from then. And since then, they've been constantly sending each other prompts to create poetry or flash fiction, and to try and just encourage and nurture one another's creativity, which I think is a very good practice to be doing. So for this, they obviously both had the same prompt, so I think it's kind of interesting to have that as a little bit of background, and to also for you, the listener, to kind of compare and contrast maybe the two poems as well. This first one is Pink Bathroom by Jade Hilton. So Jade is a self-employed life model who seeks creativity and art in all aspects of life and work. She's currently working on an array of art projects, written work, including poems, children's stories, and a novel, and is trying to help raise money for Brighton Art Studio Draw, where she models and tutors. You can also find more of her work and further details on her website, which is Jade Hilton, that's Hilton spelled with a Y, .wordpress.com, if you'd like to know more. So here is her poem, Pink Bathroom.
Pink bathroom. Bubblegum pink. That was the colour of the bathroom. The tiles, the toilet, the bath and the sink. Sweet pea pink. Spring stepped outside, so the windows were opened wide. As an unwanted guest buzzed their way through, I lay on my belly, on my mum's bed, watching telly, without a thought or a clue, kicking my legs as I watched telly tots, bumble on guard as it targeted my bot. I cried and whimpered from my first sting of life, as my mum stood me on the toilet seat and plucked it from my behind. Punch pink, as my dad's nose dripped with blood. It came on once in a while, in tides and floods. I would sit at the doorframe and watch and we'd wait and chat, dripping, dripping, turning red from pink, dripping into the sink. Baby pink, as I lay and I play, with spongy words stuck to the tiles, pruned fingers and gummy pink smiles. Watermelon pink, as my mum's hair glistened over the bath. Without a shower, back bent with a jug full of water. Frothy shampoo with scents of fruit and flowers. We had a garden and 2 bedrooms, a standard front room and a decent kitchen. But I don't remember the colours of those rooms, I don't think. Just the bathroom and how everything was pink.
And now I'm going to play for you a poem titled Our Relation with the Place Is by Ariane Cipriano. So please enjoy.
Our relation with the place is, if it's hot, we stay in the room without windows, behind the kitchen, near the cleaning products. If it's cold, they give us space and fresh air. If there is the need to be protected from a virus, they tell us nothing. We clean the house, it needs to be clean, sterile. If we die, it's just another poor soul. No one demonstrates against middle class killing and surviving. There is a tiny room in the back of the house where all the stuff goes that has to be hidden. We sleep there. Through one bedroom, then another, TV room, dining room, big kitchen, 1, 2, 3 bathrooms. We move freely, counting we are diligently carrying a mop or a broom. Anything we ask for is too much. They say home is no business, though they do their best to bring profit. Otherwise, who will pay you? They don't like spider webs, and it doesn't matter how old our bones are. We go up there, or we don't get their misery in form of a salary. Our house is the memory of what they threw away. We can't lie. Bedsheet, mixer, garden table. Our own kitchen or bedroom, found in the bin outside work. We live 1/5 of the day on a bus, see more of commuters than of our children, studying sociology, psychology, philosophy, and not really big fans of the expensive t-shirts the boss sends them for Christmas each year to look good and charitable. We learn to love all sorts of insects and don't mind the dust on the floor. The shoemaker's son, they say, always goes barefoot.
This next piece is from David Judah and is read out by Sam Lee. This piece is titled Pandemic, a Collection of Thoughts, and it's a series of observations of London City pre-lockdown laws. It is kind of observing this general shift in the dynamic of the city and its spaces and the people within it.
A woman dances in the window, glass of wine in hand, dancing to an inaudible soundtrack of this newfound normal. A shopkeeper argues with his customer. She coughed and he asked her to leave. The exchange became heated and police were called. The customer no longer knows best. The phenomenon of mask wearing was once a strange and almost mockable offence. We marvelled at our Chinese cousins who took to the streets in their millions under the protection of their cotton shields. Now in London, 1 in every 10 can be seen striding along confidently, knowing that they are protected. Germs are afraid of masks. The atmosphere is one of suspense. We see other countries handling things in their own unique ways. Some lock their populations down with national house arrest. Some appeal to the good nature of their citizens to do the right thing and self-isolate. All are bracing for the worst. It is the suspense of what next that grips the collective psyche of those who walk beside us in the street. A certainty of uncertainty. The supermarket aisles are bare, but no one knows why. We stockpile in anticipation of an unknown. Yet still some continue as if nothing has changed. True to the Pink Floyd lyric, hang on in quiet desperation is the English way, restaurants remain open to serve invisible customers, and pubs pull pints for people brave enough to embrace ignorance. Only 30. The number of confirmed cases in the borough of Camden. Hardly a drop in the vast ocean of the local population. The sense of detachment from the severity of the situation empowers the old man to walk to the corner shop for his 20-pack of cigarettes and a copy of The Guardian. And why shouldn't he? Not until forced to do so will people accept the guidance of the voice inside their head that urges them to act responsibly. Not until that voice is amplified by the government-enforced curfews and draconian restrictions will people decide for themselves that actually it might be better to stay in, just for the time being until this all blows over. What about the workers, the renters, the people who live paycheck to paycheck, who always ask for the extra shift to make the most of the fantastic opportunity that the new flexible 0 hours contract opportunity provided them? The business owner who took out a loan to open the shop on the high street she'd always dreamed of owning. The rent is still due. The customers no longer come. An anxiety is created that creeps into the newfound lexicon of the post-COVID population, the language of despair in the face of an unknown oppressor. In the greatest ever exodus of the office, an entire population sits idly at home, wishing they could be back at their desks trying to look busy to impress their bosses. In the face of this strange new world, kindness and creativity finds a way to flourish. A voice note calms the group chat with the promise of a lasagna the size of Wembley Stadium. A video of a Barcelona balcony symphony shows hundreds of strangers together in isolation. People post on Facebook offering their support for people with young children, dogs that need walking, and anyone that needs an ear to listen. In the face of a common enemy, the world unites to prove that a sense of community need not be restricted to the physical world. Viruses might inflict short-term damage on our health, and might even take from us our loved ones, but it will not extinguish the fire of a digital humanity, bound together by a shared defiance of defeat. Crisis presents opportunity, and this pandemic has presented the opportunity for humankind to reimagine itself. No longer are we a planet of different regions with different needs and agendas that are incompatible with that of our neighbours. We are one, with one voice and one goal, to thrive in the face of destruction. This pandemic is the first of many challenges that we will have to face. Alone we are weak, but together we will prevail. If this situation has proven one thing, it is that we are able to respond as one. This is the blueprint for our response to climate change and to any other global challenge we face. We must continue to build this sense of collective responsibility in digital community, to be a part of something greater than anything ever before. Once we do, anything is possible.
So this last poem is from the Hackney-based writer Joanna Duffy, and it is titled The Way You Left It. This poem was published in 2016 in a collection of Joanna's work called Other Troubled Creatures by Bear Fiction Press, which I would highly recommend giving a read, not just because she is a really good friend of mine, but because they are genuinely great. Anyway, here is Joanna reading her poem.
I want this city, all of it, but only when it is stripped naked and bracing to be broken. I want the dented shipping container on stilts perching above the canal like a heron, watchful all week, where a gospel choir practices on Sunday mornings with sudden voices ricocheting off loose screws and debris and aluminium clavicles, then spiralling up to their Jesus. I want the silent roads at 5 a.m, pulling the first light into their tarmac pores to retain for another day of trampling. I want the watchful black hole-eyed children on the top decks of buses and the yellow squares of lamplit tower block windows and the desert driveways and taxidermy traffic. I want this city with the flesh peeling away from its concrete carcass and its breath souring in the throats of its tunnels and stairways. I want it still and heaving and repulsive and angelic. I want to find it just the way you left it when you left it.
So that was the last poem for this show today. All of them were kind of loosely based on that theme of space and architecture and how we interact with this built world around us, which is the whole concept behind Roark. If you want to find out more information or get involved, just contact Roark Book on Instagram. Just reminding that's ROARK book. We've still got a little bit of time left, so I'm just going to continue playing some of the soundtrack from The Fountainhead, which I would also highly recommend again, just for the next kind of 10 minutes or so. Just very relaxing kind of listening. So thanks to Montez Press and everyone else for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show, and goodbye.
like to hear that, so David. You mind?